Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to learn about Open SQL statement. So now let's get started. So open the transaction SE38 where we will be writing some Open SQL statements in our this demo program. So go to the change mode. I've already created this program for us to do some demo, and so let's get started. So first of all, we will be understanding Open SQL query where we have a condition like select single with or without where condition. So before I start writing code, I will take you to the some standard database table from where we will be fetching some data, and we will be discussing various OpenSQL statements. So for example, let's go to the VBAP table, and now as of now just select only few rows. So go to it and select execute it. So if you see here, for example, if I use the select single with and without where condition. So select, if we use the select single with and without, and if we suppose we use without where condition any. So for example, I fetch some data, for example VBLN I'm fetching, and then I'm fetching some material field, and then I'm fetching ARKTX field. So if I suppose don't pass any condition in our where condition, and if I write and execute my select query, so it will be fetching your top row of your database table. So here it will fetches the first row. But in case if you pass any conditions or any fields in the where condition, so you will be getting the exact data whatever you are passing. For example, if we pass in the where condition where VBLN is equal to 4970 and pause NR is 20, so at that time you will directly get this particular data. For example, only this, only 002 and Sony XA1 in your output. Now quickly see this thing in practical. So go to the your editor program and write some statements, and we will be seeing first like a traditional select query, and then we will be seeing its ABAP 7.4 equivalent query. So for example, let's go and create some work area. For example, data ls vbap type vbap, and write your select single query. For example, select single vbln matl and arktx from vbap into corresponding fields of ls vbap. That's it. Now do the pretty printer and just hit enter here. So we get the pretty code here, and try to do syntax check. So the syntax is fine, activate it. And for example, if it successfully gets executed, so we have something called size sub RC in SAP ABAP in report program. So just click on tab and if and write something like this: if size sub RC equals to 0. So if the condition matches or if the data is present in this database table, so size of RC value becomes 0. That means it is success. And do the pretty filter. So if it is success and size of RC becomes 0, then we can write something like this in our output screen. Example ls underscore vbap, and we can print it vbln. Similarly, we can print other fields as well, like for example matl. So I will be taking it from directly here to save our time. So now do the pretty printer, do the syntax check, and try to activate it. So let's take a breakpoint here and see in the debugging mode. So you can click on this F8 button directly, or either on this button here. We'll go to the debugging mode. So if you see here, as we have set the breakpoint here, so it has already executed the statement, and you can check size of RC value from here as well, or you can even type it from here. Like for example, size of RC So you will see the value is 0. That means it has executed successfully. So if you now go to do F5 again, it will print your value on the screen. For example, we can click on this. VBLN value is 4969, MATKL value is 001, and then ARKTX value is this. Do the F5, and now we can do directly F8. So on the screen, you will be seeing the top first row of our standard database table as I showed you and told you earlier. For example, this, the very first row of your database table, because we didn't mention any where condition in our code. So the output yet you're seeing is only this only, like MATKL and ARGX for the first row. Now do the press back here and you will see here. Now we will be putting some where condition here. For example, where VBLN equals to, and we can directly pick some values from here. For example, double click on this and just copy this value and you can paste it here, and as per your database data you can select those values accordingly also, and pause and r equals to this, for example 10, or we can pick any other as well. Example, double click on this and just pick it 21 and activate it and do the syntax check with the pretty printer and then activate it. And now let's try to execute this statement in debugging. So if we go and see in the debugging, you will be seeing some different data now this time. For example, this time we will be getting the data like 002 and Sony XA1 in our output, because we mentioned the where condition in our select query, or we can say in our Open SQL query. So if we do F5 or just directly click on this, the size of is 0, that means the query gets executed successfully, and that's it. Yes, you are able to see the correct value because we mentioned the conditions correct in our where condition. So VBLN value is there, MATKL value is there, ARTX is there. Now executed, you will see the output, correct output, right? As we discussed. Now quickly see this select query in ABAP 7.4 or greater format. For example, let's quickly utilize this query by copying it and just paste this here. And we will be having some another playlist as well on ABAP 7.4, so that you can refer later on. So as of now, just focus on this traditional and the latest one here. So if we see there is a basic difference, like we are passing space here, and if you are using this version, then you can pass here. You need to pass here the commas, and then you don't need to declare your work area like we declared here above. So what you can do is like remove it and write directly into add the rate data. Add the rate is your escaping character, and now what you can do is like use, like for example give a underscore 2 here, and the remaining can be same. And similarly you need to pass here as well, as we will be using now this work area for printing output. Yeah, so do the pretty printer, do the syntax check always and try to activate it. So yeah, and now we can even comment it down so that we can see the output on selection correctly. So do the syntax check again and try to activate. Yeah. Now let's put the breakpoint here and try to execute it. Now again we will get the same output but using the ABAP 7.4 feature, and we by reducing some statement, like we reduce this step as well, and we wrote some less code here. For example, we didn't write any into corresponding field thing, so that saves our time without declaring any work area for the structure. So as this size of us is 0 and the values are same that we saw earlier, so now you can directly click on update, and yeah, here is your output. So this is how the basic difference between Web 7.4 and Web traditional ABAP. Now we will be seeing some select into table Open SQL statement. So now quickly see, for example, in the traditional way, if I say, like, for example, I will declare LT underscore VBAP type standard table of VBAP, and I will be fetching some data now. Select, for example, the same fields we can fetch from here. Select VBELN, or we can fetch pause in R as well from VBAP into corresponding fields of table LT VBAP. And we can even mention here, for example, you don't want to fetch all the data, so you can mention here like up to 10 rows you can mention. Yeah, this way. Now do the syntax check. Yeah, it's fine. And let's put the size of RC check here as well. If size of RC equals to 0, and F, and do the pretty winter, do the syntax check. Yeah, fine. Save it. And where we have another system variable like site dbcnt. So what it basically, the system field site dbcnt is set to the number of rows fetched. For example, I will write it here. For example, write sy db database count basically. Now do the printer and syntax check and activate. So we are using here the into corresponding fields of table, and into tables we are filling data, internal table data from the VBAP table. Now let's put the breakpoint here and try to execute it. Go to desktop 3 tab, and now let's do the F5 here. Size of RC is 0 here, as you can see. We can even write it here as I discussed earlier. And if you click on this VBAP table, you will be seeing only the 10 rows, because we wrote here the up to 10 rows. So we will be seeing 10 rows of data here. And you can click on this and see the output in this format as well. For example, 4969 and 4970 has multiple records, as we can see in our database table. 4970 has 4 rows. Similarly, we can see here, and then 4971, 4972, and similarly we fetch those only these column data, so only these are getting filled and the rest are blank in the traditional ABAP approach. Now let's do, now also check the site database count here. It is equivalent to 10, as I discussed earlier. So whatever the amount of rows we have fetched here, site dbcnt value will be equivalent to that number of rows. Now do the effect. So yeah, 10 we can see here. Now let's quickly see this thing in a Web 7.4 format. So we can just copy this thing and write it here, and we can now comment this thing, and we don't need to mention again this thing like we did this here. So we can directly use into table at the rate data and LTVBAP this thing, and do the pretty enter, do the syntax check and activate it. Here we got some error. Yeah, we didn't provided comma here as per the syntax. So do the syntax check again and now activate. It's working. So now let's try to execute it. So same output we will see again here. 10 rows of data will be fetched in our internal table. Just click on this LTVPP. So yeah, again we are getting the same thing, but now this time only 4 columns will be fetched, because we didn't mention into corresponding fields of table. So only the 4 columns you can see in your final internal table. And also the side ABCNT value will be 10, as we discussed. Now execute it and let's go to the back button. Now we will be seeing some like a select distinct Open SQL statement in ABAP. For that, just write some code like this: select distinct VBELN from VBAP into table at the rate data LD underscore tab. For example, we are using directly the Web 7.4 feature, so you can refer it and you should use it in your upcoming programs or in your daily tasks. I just showed you in the traditional as well, so that the beginners can learn from here itself and then they can move gradually to a Web 7.4 feature. Now let's do the pretty printer and do the syntax check and activate. We can also use here the size of RC thing, do and if, pretty printer, syntax check and activate it. And let's put the breakpoint here. So now what we are trying to do here is select distinct. Distinct means we want only some unique rows of unique records, like a unique VBLN we want to fetch rather than multiple records that we have. For example, in this table you are saying VBLN value as 4969 and then 4970 multiple times. So rather than multiple times, we just want to fetch the distinct rows. For example, 49619 should come first and then 4970 only should come rather than 4 times, only single time it should display in our internal table. So let's do execute it. Yeah, the debugging mode is open and it has already executed the statement. Size of RC is 0. Now we will click on this empty tab and you will be seeing some 14,000 something records because it fetches all the data whatever present in SAP standard database table, and it fetches only the unique. So as you can see, only a single time 4970 is coming here rather than 4 times. So that is how the select distinct features works in ABAP Open SQL statement. You can now execute it. Nothing will come as we didn't print anything. So that is how the Open SQL statement comes into the picture, and you can utilize in your programs, and we will be seeing further Open SQL statements or other features in our upcoming videos. So stay tuned. Thank you.